Well, today is going to be a great day. So first of all, we're going to deep dive a bit into something that if you're a follower of the podcast, you've heard about before. I call it infrastructure. You may call it supports. We call it different things. And I thought it could be very interesting to look at another angle of infrastructure. What happens when you have something quite traumatic happen to you, as I did, and you'll hear a few stories as well. I have a guest with me. She's one of my besties of over 20 years. When I talk about infrastructure, she is one of the people I am talking about. Founder extraordinaire, co founder of Yellow Brick Road. She is the best strategist I have ever met, and I consider myself to be a strategy person. You can follow her at Barefoot Strategist, right? Her name is Nnenna Onyewuchi. Nana, sis, my love, my
Yes.
bestie,
Oh,
how are
my
you?
Jen. I'm so good. And it's funny because we had talked about the podcast for so long. So I'm also super proud of you for actually doing it. Thank
One
you.
of
You
our
are now my
fans, one of our
inspiration.
fans.
I'm like, yes. It made it out the
Yeah.
group chat. I love it.
They made it out the group chat for sure. But you're also doing amazing work. Can you just very quickly, tell us a bit about Barefoot Strategist? Because you're on Instagram. I saw
Mm,
recently, not that I saw, we talked about it,
mm.
but you also recently put together a lunch where you spoke to women about a host of things. So please
Yeah,
share.
so the Barefoot Strategist it actually started, so I have a friend, Tuma Basa, and God, 10 years ago, so now all of my social media was private. And Tuma said to me, you have a responsibility because you
Mm.
represent possibility for a young girl somewhere on this continent. And I thought, well, damn.
That
Now I
sounds
gotta do it,
heavy.
right? Now I gotta do it. Um, and there's actually something that you always say, that has kind of inspired this. You always say, look, you can make mistakes, but you don't have to make the mistakes that I made.
Mm.
Um, and so I thought to myself, you know what? This everything I know someone taught me. And so let me at least try to give back what I've gotten, if nothing else. And so the Barefoot Strategist was really that. It was, what I do professionally as strategy. Um, and I was really lucky early in my career that I had a lot of people who really took the time to teach me and pour into me. And I know not everybody has that. And so I wanted to create a space for everyone, but particularly young African women, where they could come and they could learn about strategy, but also they could learn about leadership.
Yes.
And then over the years, I've just gotten a lot of requests for mentorship, and I can't mentor everyone. And so the Barefoot Brunch I thought to myself, okay, if I could maybe have a group mentoring session, maybe.
Amazing.
Um, and then because, I'm like, I can't just do it by myself, I invited some other senior women. Because I think one of the things that for a lot of young women is they don't have access to senior women who are going to tell them the truth. Right. And it was small. It was like 15 women and then, me and two of my friends. And we just answered their questions as
Mm.
honestly and as candidly as we could. And they were very like it was really around, how do I balance work and life and family? How do I negotiate? What does it mean to be a
Mm.
woman? How do I, how do I negotiate? A lot of these women are transitioning into senior leadership. These women in their mid 30s, which is where we lose a lot of women, right?
This
In
is
that
it, actually.
transition.
Yes.
And so a lot of the questions like, how do I manage a team? How do I deal with people who used to be my peers and now I'm their boss? Right?
Mm.
How do I deal with the change between my boss and I now that I'm at a not now that I have a director role, right? So some of it was like the balance of, but a lot of it was just professionally, how do you navigate? Because it is a different women have to navigate differently.
Yeah, and there's no book, right? I mean, a lot of times you're just
There's
kind of like hoping you get it right. And as you said, I'm really a believer in if I have fallen into this ditch, you don't need to follow. me into that ditch. Like you can just learn how to jump over that ditch. Like take the lesson,
See.
bro. Take the lesson and run with
What
it.
is what is that song? My enemy, whatever dish my enemies have, jump across, right?
Jump
Like
over,
really,
bro.
I'm like I'm there to help you jump across. Because I think and I think it's gonna go to what we're gonna talk about today. I think I have been remarkably lucky in my life that I have
Mm,
had, and I continue to have really good friends. Um,
mm,
and I have friends who are not only good, but they're useful, right? I have friends who are doing, I was like, I don't do anything useful, but my friends are amazing, right? And so I have friends who can give me career advice, right? I have friends that I can take my work problems to. I have friends who are my peers professionally, and I have friends like you who are like ahead of me, right? So I can see,
hey,
right? So I
relax.
have friends that can help me strategize. And not everybody, no, see, not everybody has it.
Yeah.
Right. So we're able
No.
to sit down with you and be like, see, this is the way this thing is happening. And we've done it, right? I'm like, this is the thing that I'm doing. And we'll sit down and we'll be like, okay, no, this is how to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But like you have helped me prep for stuff, you've helped me think through things. And I realized like not everybody has it. And so the barefoot strategist is really like, I can't plug all the holes, but at the very least, I can bring my experience and the experience of the women that I know and help people who are coming behind us, right? You have to put the ladder down.
Mm.
Um,
You have to
and so
put
that's
it. You
really,
have to put it down. Yeah.
yeah,
But Nena,
that's it.
I want to say something to you about that. And by the way, for those of you listening, Nena is being super humble right now. Okay. I told you at the beginning of this episode that I have never met a more brilliant strategist. And at every single job I've had, at some point I've had to say, Nana, what am I gonna do strategy wise? So, she as she said, and I want to reinforce this point. I mean, I'm giving you flowers, Nana. Like she's truly a brilliant strategist. And so any company is looking for a strategy person, she is it. But more importantly, I think as women, and I say this to young women all the time, that they have to be very intentional about what their infrastructure is. I think, especially I think if you intend to be someone that has a very strong career journey,
Mm,
recognizing the fact that every step of the way you need the support system. You cannot do it by
mm,
yourself, right? And so if you have the opportunity to understand that quite early, then you start to be, I think, more intentional around how you pick who's around you, and you
mhm,
don't you're not sort of making decisions just because I love hanging out with this person at the club.
mm,
You know what I mean? It goes beyond
mm,
that.
mm,
You may
mm.
love doing that too, and then and I have enjoyed a good club night. We have.
More
We have.
than one.
More than once. But it's also, understanding that, there should be value add beyond just
Mm,
that, right, as well. And I think this sort of ties nicely into what we wanted to talk about today, Nana, which is really around infrastructure, but coming at it from a different point of view.
mm.
Um, Nana and I have known each other for over 20 years, along with our other sister, Uju Asika. Um, but I wanted to start before we get into it. Do you remember how we met? Because you know me, I forget everything. But I'm wondering if you remember how
So
we met. Yeah.
and I'm not sure if this is the day that we met, but my first really clear memory of you is at Atlantic Bar.
So we can go into it immediately,
We're
right?
just gonna start, right? Because so the background of this is Uju, who Chen mentioned, is my cousin, like essentially my twin, and she and Chen were working together, and so I've been hearing about this Chen person, and Uju and I, because she is my other half, there's always like a slight, not jealousy, but always a slight concern when like a new person comes. So I'm like, is it gonna throw up the balance? Like, I don't know this chick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, right? Energy like collects people, right? But I remember this night at Atlantic Bar because I was like, oh, first of all, like she's American, so like we like because
We
when you move
bonded
to
immediately.
Nigeria, there's a very English right situation. I was like, oh, okay, this is somebody that speaks my language. Um, and you were like, I remember thinking, I was really intimidated because I was like, oh, like she's like this very like accomplished person, and I was like, oh no, I'm just like this little person. Um, but I remember it was like that night there was like a long table. Um, and I just remember talking to you. I don't remember
Mm,
what we talked about, but I remember talking. Right. I remember thinking to myself, oh, okay, no, this is like that that night I found comfort. I was like, okay, this is we're adding her, right? So I too was like, okay, that person. And then we started talking, not that night, but later, around kind of what was happening in our lives.
yeah,
And I had recently lost my mother, you had just lost her dad, and you had lost your husband not too long ago.
right.
Um, and so I think that there was also, and I
Trauma
think this
bond.
is there was this thing of not I think there was an understanding. We were all going through something that
Mm,
only somebody who was going through it would understand.
yeah,
And so we were able to, one, support each other because we understood, right? That even though, and I said this earlier, even though, like, on the face of it, if you didn't really know us, you wouldn't know because we were showing up to work, we were doing things we needed to do, right? But we were also like crumbling underneath.
yeah.
And I think that we understood that about each other early. I remember when we went to the end of your morning, which I think for me is like the watershed in our relationship. I remember that so clearly because I remember I saying, I'm going with Uche to the east because she's
Yeah.
going to go take off her mourning for her husband. And so I'm going with her. And someone said, oh, have you guys known each other a really long time? And people assume that we've been friends for years. I'm like, no, I literally met her a couple of
Wow.
months ago. Like it was like maybe 2 months
Yes,
after we met.
yes, yes.
Um, but I was like, one, I'm not gonna let her go alone. But I remember thinking to myself, like, I understand there's a level to which I understand what is, and I really felt in like my entire spirit that like this is like I needed to be there to support you. Um, and that whole trip was like very surreal. We won't get into it too much. But for me, I think that was a watershed in our relationship because I was like, okay, I committed to our friendship
Yeah.
when I made
That
that decision, right?
and that was a big commitment, and I want to talk about that for a minute because, in case uh, perhaps you don't understand, so there is a year after the funeral, you have to go back to the village for me in the east to to have this ceremony and remembrance, and it's kind of the closing of the mourning period, right? And in that one year, my life had changed a lot, because I think I was just trying to shed all of the things that had happened, right? So coming out of the funeral and 12 months later, when Nana was going with me to this funeral, I had changed jobs twice, Um, I had moved out of I think no, I hadn't moved yet, but I was just in a very different space. And I was
Mm,
really trying to forget everything that had happened leading up to the death of my husband at the time. And so I made a lot of changes. I had changed friends as well. As you know, I had
mm,
just met Nnenna, and I had recently met Uju as well. And so I was also sort of just going through my own changes. And so here I meet Nana, and we had only known each other for 2 months. And this event came up where I had to go to the East, and I was not looking forward to it at all. Not looking forward to it at all. And I think what was very interesting is I'm not even sure I had to express that to you,
Mm.
right? I said I was going to the East, and you were like, "What day is it?" Okay, I'm gonna be there. So it wasn't even a fact of like, oh my God, no, no, I don't want to go. There are all these. It
Mhm.
was just you read it and you were just like, I'm gonna show up, and we ended up going to the East, as you said. I think that sort of cemented the relationship that's lasted 20 years.
Mm.
But I mean, talk to me about that as well. I mean, just in terms of how was that? As you said, it was a watershed moment for us. I think it just it allowed us to see us at one of our lowest points, I guess, you
Mm.
know?
I think, I mean, part of it is, as an Igbo girl myself, um, I have an understanding of like what that time requires, right? Even if you've had the most amazing experience possible, right? Even if everything is great and all relationships are great, it's a really difficult thing because, like, I said, I had just lost my mom, right?
Yeah,
And we were maybe 4 or 5 months into that for me. And so I was becoming acquainted with the like understanding grief and mourning.
yeah.
And there was a part of me, I think, that understood that, like, other people aside, like, this was a really significant transition for you. And
Mm.
I felt like she needs her people there. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not useful. But I just
But
felt like I wanted
mhm,
to be there just in case you needed whatever. You needed to laugh, you needed to cry, you needed to walk out. That's right, and be alone for a second.
mhm,
I just felt like I was very protective of you, I think,
mhm,
by then. Because, like, there was so much going on, and I just felt like I didn't even think about it. Like, it wasn't like I had a rational thing. I was like, oh, this thing is coming up. Of
I'm
course I'm
there.
going to
Yeah,
go because
yeah,
of course I'm going to be there with Chen because I can't let her go by herself. Well, like, what is that, right? Like, I guess by that point, like, I had adopted you. You're already my sister, and so I was like, okay, this is what we do.
yeah.
And I think that this is a thing. I was like, luck is so important. I think like you said, you have to choose your friends carefully, but I think you have to be aware when someone comes into your life,
Mm,
right? Because sometimes I didn't
yeah.
choose you, right? You were gifted to me, and I think that I was just smart enough to recognize the gift,
Agreed. Because
right?
Nana, you and I are both well, not well. Let me speak for myself, and then you can co-sign if
Mm.
you want, right? We have a mutual friend, Lisa. Lisa will say she absolutely detests introducing me to people because my initial reaction is not always
Mhm.
receptive. Let's put it that way, right? And so I really love what you said, which is, when somebody is gifted to you, that you also have to be open in terms of
Mm.
receiving. Because a lot of times, and especially as you get older and more established, we have this thing, there's this hashtag, no new friends, right?
Mhm.
And so there are times that people come into your lives for a reason. And if you're not open, and if you don't have the ability to recognize that actually this is someone who should be in my space, in my life, you could miss out on
Mm.
someone who could be a great support to you, of great value to you. And I don't mean that in a transactional manner, but you know what I mean, like,
Mm-mm.
yeah. So I think that's really an important point that you've just made as well.
Yeah. And I think that also the thing about when someone is gifted to you, I think
Mm.
I feel like you gifted you to me and you gifted Lisa to me. Um, but the other thing, as we talk about infrastructure, right, is that infrastructure is also something that you have to maintain,
Hmm.
right?
You're
And
dropping jewels today, Nana.
no,
Hey.
because I think that's the thing about friendships. I don't know, I was reading or watching something recently and it talked about, how like popular culture like celebrates romantic relationships and it doesn't celebrate friendships in the same way.
Hmm.
And I say all the time, right, that my girlfriends have saved my life continuously throughout my whole life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that when you find people, and we are not the talk everyday friends anymore.
No.
Um, but I know that at least for me, maybe not always like great, but I am conscious of wanting to make sure to maintain the infrastructure of our relationship.
Mm. Mhm.
So that when we do talk, I want to make sure that it is substantive. And so when we do talk, it may not be every day, but when we talk, right, at length about the things that are happening and we will catch up and I will learn all about your life. When your parents come to Nigeria, I will go and see them.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
One, because I'm in love with your mother, but also because I really am invested in our relationship.
Mhm.
Right? And because I'm invested in our relationship, that extends to your parents, to your brothers, to like I want to your cousins, like you're a part of my family to
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
And that's how I treat you as like my sibling. Um, And so like I work to maintain our infrastructure and that means that I am rooting for you, I'm engaged with you, I'm protective of you. Um always thinking if anything happens or someone comes across, I'm like, oh, this might be, useful for Chen. I will be like, oh, Chen, there's this thing.
Right.
Right? Like you're always front of mind.
Right. And
Right? And
but
that is, yeah.
I think this is and Nana, thank you so for speaking so beautifully because I really want women, and I really don't care whether you're 20 or 40, to understand what the depth of a friendship with women can look like, and how that can surround you. I don't think, and again, if I think back over the 20 years, I mean, our relationship has had ebbs and flows like any other
Mhm.
relationship. Um, while we were living in Nigeria, as Nana will talk about as well, and while we were going through this grieving period together, myself, her, and a Jew, we made all kinds of decisions that, in hindsight, were questionable, but I think also helped us to become better human beings, better leaders, better
Mm.
CEOs. You know what I mean? Because those experiences shaped us. And during that time in Nigeria as well, the fact that I don't know how to explain this, Nana. You're always so much better at explaining these things than I am, but I think that period, that grieving period, and I would say it was over a 1 to 2 year period, and then we all sort of started to go off and do our own thing. Really, there's this sort of this very deep well that we've built over that period, right? And so it doesn't matter whether we don't speak for 6 months. Like
Mm.
there's depth, right, that can never disappear or go
Mm.
away, that will always connect us. You know what I mean? Uju and
Mhm.
I definitely don't speak every day. You know what I mean? But the moment we pick up the phone, we just start laughing, right? We just start laughing because, you know, that's just, Fidel's used to
So
call
could
us
I
the laughing
Can I
jacket.
yeah, laughing jackass? So can I talk about this?
Please go
So
ahead, go
like
ahead.
so the laughing jackass is like literally it's a hashtag for me that I use, right? all the time exclusively with the two of you. And it came, right, because in the midst of our grief, I think that the three of us found laughter as the thing that was going to like help us cope and survive.
Yes.
Um, and so we laughed, we sang, we danced, right? And when I
Everywhere.
look back at
Everywhere.
everywhere,
Everywhere.
anywhere, appropriate or not, um, but I think, there is this idea that joy is resistance. And I think that
Mm,
for the three of us who were like in profound grief, to like to work to find joy together was really powerful. And I think, and this is now going to be me like waxing lyrical, right? But
mhm,
when you suffer a profound loss, right, you transition as a person because the person you
mhm.
were before is not the person you are after.
It's
It's just not
gone.
possible.
It's gone.
And I think that that 2-year period was also our period of becoming, right? We became the it was in a way we became real adults, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like you lose a parent, you lose a spouse, there's a maturity that you cannot help that comes out of that. And finding it can be rocky, right?
Yeah.
Decision making is part of like the transition. But I think that we midwifed each other
Yes.
into the adults that we have become, right? And we became together the people that we are now.
Hmm.
And so that I think is part of it, is that we were all, it wasn't just the grief and the trauma, but the transition. And to be able to I think for me, when I look back on it, what I'm incredibly grateful for was that I was able to transition, bad decisions and all, in a space that was without judgment, but not without question,
Thank you.
right? Like y'all did not judge me, but you would be like, "Are you sure this thing
What,
you're doing?
girl, what are you doing?
Are we
What
sure?" Like,
are
babe,
you doing?
mm, right? Like there was no judgment. It was okay if you're doing it, okay. But I mean,
What?
there's a person we will not be like. But I'm like, he looks like he's a clown, right? Like, are we sure about the clown guy,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I think that that was the thing that was
Oh, the
that they
lion
were
guy. The lion
right.
guy.
There was the lion. There was there. In fact, there were many things. Oh, see,
Continue.
we have come far. But the thing was, right, and I think that that's a thing that is in like really strong female relationships
Mm,
is so powerful. Is that you can have a space that is without
judgment.
judgment,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that it's a space without question or challenge, right? Your girls are going to sit you down and they're going to tell you the truth. Then whatever decision you make, they will support you in that decision, but they will tell you the truth first. They'll be like, "This thing you're doing, Sha, I'm not sure. It may not be a right thing. But if you're doing it, then we're all in." Right. And I think that for me was
Mm,
so powerful and so valuable because I was at sea. When my mother died, I was untethered. Like I was
yeah.
like, because she had been, right, my anchor, my true north. Like I was like one of those compasses just spinning. And I had to find in that 18 months to 2 years a way to be my own anchor. Um, and that was hard and terrifying. And I made all the mistakes.
Hmm.
But there was a way in which you and a Jew were like a weighted blanket. Right? Like
Gave
you kept me
comfort.
in
Yeah.
place. You
Yeah.
comforted me, but also you kept me from like
Straying too
spinning
far.
out
Yeah.
completely. Right?
Straying
Because
too
that was also a possibility that I would just, right, in one of my crazy moments, just like spin out or like do real damage to myself or to do real damage to other person. And I just feel like you created a safe, you gave me boundaries in a way
Mm-hmm.
because you wouldn't judge me, but you would be like, are you sure?
Like
Right? Like
guardrail.
you, right? You
Yeah.
gave me guardrails, um, but also just an endless understanding. Like I cannot explain to anybody the amount of like nonsense that I have said to Chet. The amount of
And-
arrant foolishness that has come out of my mouth. And she'll just be like, okay, but babe. It was just like that, but babe, right? Like, she was like,
Are
no,
you
that's
sure?
not, no. Are you
No.
sure? Like, no, no, that's not really, that's,
That doesn't make
right? This doesn't
sense.
make sense. Right? But also, like, I know that Chen is, she'd be like, darling. I want whenever Chen starts with darling, I'm like, okay. I'm about to hear I'm going to hear the truth.
You're about to hear
And
the truth.
and there's all of that, but then there's also, I come to Cotonou and we drink champagne and we dance to old hip hop and we
Oh, what a great time.
right
And we
and we
cried.
just and we cry and like I just
Mm.
it is you are one of the freest relationships that I have.
Hmm.
Like
You're
I
about
don't
to
have
make me
to.
cry on this podcast, girl. Don't do
No, but
that.
I really, and I think
Uh,
that that's the thing about when you think about infrastructure,
yeah.
right? You think about things that are solid and unshakable and lasting. Um, and that I think is how I think about our relationship. Like I don't question, I don't doubt. Do we get irritated with each other?
Of
Yes. Right?
course.
Are we, of course,
Normally.
because we're people and I'm ridiculous and but like I never in over 20 years have I doubted our friendship. Not once.
Yeah, and there's so many proof points. I mean, I remember, and I'm gonna tell a sanitized version of this story, but
Mm,
um, I remember, and I just want to use this as an example so that people really understand how deeply we're talking about. I remember we had gone out one night, and it was quite late, and I decided to drive home. And you said, no, no, let me drop you off. And I was like, no, I'm going to drive home. It was dark. It was raining. I ended up getting into this really terrible accident. And which is why I will not drive now. But I ended up getting into this really serious accident on my way home. And I was knocked out, right? And when I came to, I think you had been called already, and then if I'm not mistaken.
mhm,
Yeah. And so they picked me up. She came and they took me to my apartment. And then I also made the phone call to my parents. You know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't just, I think your number was the last number on my phone. So
mhm,
the people who found me called you, and you came immediately. You'll plug in the gaps,
mhm,
but you also, I remember you saying like you were also like, what am I going to say to Uche's mom? You know what I mean? Like you were, not only were you concerned about me, but you were like grappling with what's the conversation
mhm,
with Chen's mom in New Jersey. You know what I mean? And I think one thing before I come back to you is Nana and I had a mutual friend who passed away, Lima, rest in peace. And
mhm,
I remember leading in the days leading up to her funeral, I just saw her friends like sort of come into formation, as Beyonce would say.
mhm,
And I was like, I don't know if I have this. You know what I mean? Like just
mhm,
seeing women, you know, uh, just sort of come together and take care of things. You know what I mean? And I said to myself at that point, like I wanted to be much more intentional around, the people I had around me. This is why we're talking about infrastructure. Not realizing that actually it already existed, right? And this car accident, which was not the lowest point of my life by any means, obviously,
Mm.
but in action, just showing what true friendship looks like. It's not surface as deep as you said. We're like family. That to the point where you were like not only saying, "Oh my God, Chance just had this accident," but also, "Huh, how am I calling Auntie Carol? She's gonna kill me," kind of thing. You know what I mean?
So seriously, like it was because I remember that night so clearly. So you said we'd been out, we were out, and then you were like, "I want to go home." I was like, "Just wait," because we both lived in BDC at the time.
Yeah,
Um, and you were like, "I'm going," and you didn't have a drive. I remember I was like, "Okay, you know what? She's an adult. She wants to go. She's gonna go." And then I was with the person that I was dating at the time when I got the call. And I got a call from your phone, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, or whatever it was. So of course I was already like, "Oh my God, she's calling because something's happened." And then it was like a man, and he was just like, "Oh, your number was the last one in the phone. There's been an accident." And I just remember saying to the person I was with, "We have to start going to VTC." Like I was literally just like, "We have to start going." But I remember thinking to myself on the 20-minute drive or whatever it was.
mm,
Like I kept thinking, what am I going to tell to Caroline? Because she's going to say, "But where were you?"
yeah.
Right? Like I thought that was really
Where
what
were you in
just
all of this?
and she did. She was like, "And where were you when this happened?"
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I just remember like calling her, and I was like, "Okay, first of all, she's fine. She's okay. The car's totaled, but she's fine. But that was an
yeah.
accident." And she really was like, "And when where were you when it happened?" I was like, "She said she was gonna go." Um, but I remember that entire until I saw you,
Mm,
like there was I couldn't breathe properly. I was so worried. Um, and I think I remember when you were in DRC when you first went, but I was very like stressed for a long time
yeah.
because I was like, she's there, she doesn't have people, she did like, and I was like, I don't want to call her all the time and be like, but I was, and I think that that's the thing is that when you have somebody that you hold so close, they are, they're not separate from you in a
Right,
way.
right.
So the things good and bad that happen to them, like every time something happens for you, I rejoice as if it happened for me. Like it's a really real thing for me. I am so excited for you and I'm so
Mm,
happy for you. And if something is not great, I am
I feel it for
great.
you as
I
well.
feel it
Yeah,
for you. I'm ready to go to war
yeah,
on your behalf.
yeah, yeah.
And I know, right? And I know, no, 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 no. The one thing that I know is that if today something extreme happens to me, they're like, 6 people that I call, right?
Um, it's
My
it's
four
done.
sisters,
Yeah.
you, and a Jew. And those are my first calls. And, I think when you talk about when Alima died,
Mm,
I guess that because maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a massive assumption. I remember that time, but I also remember thinking to myself, oh, I have this already.
mm,
Like I have community. Like I have Chen, and by that time Lisa and Uju and Shenhua. Like I'm lucky in that way. Um, in that the I don't have I know a lot of people. I don't
mm-hmm.
have that many friends because
Yeah.
like you, I'm just like
Who is this person?
right? I'm just like even Lisa, right? When I first met Lisa, I was like, she
Who is
talks
this
a
person?
lot. Um, but now she's like, you know what I mean? Like literally my person. She's like my first baby mama. Um, because my friends are having children from me since I've decided not to
Yeah,
have them. To,
yeah.
to explain before somebody was like,
What do you mean?
um, what do you mean? But like I'm blessed in that way, in that
Yeah.
I have just life has gifted me these people. And I have chosen, right, and I've chosen well to cultivate and cultivate the right ones. But yeah, I think that having the sister circle, as I call it,
So important.
um, has been a game changer. But I think that for me, I'm lucky in a way that you're not, because you only have brothers, right?
Yeah.
I have sisters. And so I grew up with sisters. So I grew up understanding the
Yeah. That's
power of
very
female
interesting.
support, right?
Yeah.
Like I love my brothers. I love them to the moon and back.
Hmm.
But brothers are
It's not the same.
not always
It's not.
useful.
No, it's not the same.
Right. But my sisters and then after that my sister-in-law are just like bastions of support. Like just, do you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, whether it's his financial, spiritual, emotional, physical sometimes, without question, without fail. And so I grew up, I think, understanding female relationships
Mm,
that way. And my mother had, her own circle of very close female friends. And so I grew up in a model where, which is funny because when I was a teenager, I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. One, because I had female cousins, and so I didn't need other
so you
people,
didn't
but
need
also
that.
because,
Yeah.
but also girls were just like, I was like one of those girls who was like, girls are like excessive, like they're, because I don't want to compete. Like all of this energy, because we're taught, right, by the world that you have to compete. And so when I was a teenager, right, and I was like, I was watching one of those like random like teen movies recently. I thought, oh my God, the girls are always competing,
At a very
right?
early
Girl,
age,
at
right?
a
Yeah.
very early age, right? The girls are always competing. But I saw someone recently that, like they were talking about Harry Potter and how Hermione has no female relationships. And I'm like, the world tells, and I hear it from young women all the time, right? That women don't support each other, that women will just want to drag you down, that you can't trust other women, that girls are needy. Like there's all of this like conversation around female relationships. Um, and when I was in my teens, I think that it was a conversation that I bought into.
Hmm.
But I think what saved me was that because I come from a large and very close family, my female cousins were just there. Like I had no choice. Right? They were
Hmm.
automatically with me. I didn't have any choice about that. And I'm lucky because also there's a little foursome, and they have also been right part of my infrastructure.
Interesting.
And so when I got into my 20s and into my 30s, when I was realizing that actually no,
This
the
is a
most support that I've
yes.
gotten from my life has been from other women.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That actually most of the women in my life are not competing with me. The women are not needy. The women are not difficult. That the emotional reciprocity is not a burden. Like all of these things are actually really powerful and valuable. So I think by the time we met, I was fully right recruited to the importance of female relationships.
Yeah.
If we had met 4 or 5 years earlier, it might have been different
It would have been
because
different. Yeah.
I was in a place where I was like, girls be needing too
Yeah.
much. Right? But
What's going on here?
right, and I hear it from young women a lot, right? And I used to be one of those girls that had mostly guy friends because I'm like, girls think they need too much. Or like, but now I'm just like, I would be
Okay. Yes.
lost without my
Yeah.
girlfriends, like just
I
at sea,
definitely.
adrift.
Yeah, no, I definitely had a lot of guy friends when I was coming up. Um, but I wouldn't have it any other way now, the way that my
Mm,
life is structured. I do think that, I mean, at least this has been my experience. I do have a very bright red line between, what infrastructure. infrastructure looks like in my personal life versus work,
Hmm.
because I don't, I don't think it's the same. There, I think you are in some sort of competitive environment, and
Hmm.
so I think the behaviors are different.
Hmm.
I recently had a conversation with a former colleague of mine who's now a friend, Lucy Quist, and we both worked at Vodafone together, and we talked about what that was like. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
even though we, had a great deal of respect for each other, there was still this, this underlying current. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That meant we couldn't really be infrastructure for each other during that
Hmm.
period, right? So I think there's something there, but I mean, I think just to come circle back a bit to Lagos, and then we'll close out because I want to ask you a couple more questions. You know, I think we went through this period, as you said, 2 years, and I think we touched on it. There was a lot of safety of our infrastructure, which allowed us to experiment and try
Hmm.
and and grieve in our own way, you know what I mean, and laugh. And there was also a lot of joy. So I don't want anyone to think that we were like shoulders down crying every day. No, it was not at all like that. We suffered deep pain, but we also celebrated a lot, and we found joy in the littlest of things, you know what I mean? Hence the name Laughing Jackasses, you know what I mean? As Nena said, we would sing and dance every and anywhere and all of this other stuff. But I think at the end of those 2 years, we started to go through some transitions. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like Uju, she became a mom, a wife. She moved to the UK. She left Lagos. That was the first indication that
Hmm.
what, we're not going to be in this bubble for much longer. Because we were in a bit of a bubble, to be very honest, right? And so it was, yeah, I remember when the Jew was like, "I'm going to move to London." I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, we were meant to
And
hang out.
then you left me.
You know what I mean? So it was like the first indication that where
Hmm.
the bubble is going to pop, and we're going to have to start doing. And we
Hmm.
were, but it was the first, sort of step in that
Hmm.
direction. I mean, how did that feel a certain way for you, or was it just for you a natural evolution of okay, yeah.
It was hard. It was hard. I think it was hard. I think, Uju and I also, because within this infrastructure, she's been my primary
Yeah, yeah,
infrastructure
of
since
course.
birth, right?
Yeah,
Um, and because we're so close, we were never allowed to go to school together. And so that time in Lagos is actually the first time in a long time that we just been just together
yeah,
for we hadn't been together like that since we were in New York. And so losing that was difficult for me. And then not that long after you moved to Ghana.
yeah.
And then I was left in Lagos. And I really, I think for a little while felt bereft.
Mm.
Because again, I don't have a lot of friends. Right. I know a lot of people, but there's not a lot. There are ways in which I am kind of closed off.
Mm.
Um, and so I think when coming back to the power of female friendships, like you gave me the gift of Lisa. And that really saved me after you left because I was bereft and I was very happy for both of you, but I was also heartbroken. And because I was the one that stayed in Lagos, I also felt a little bit left behind.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um,
I never knew that, by the way, but thank you for sharing that. That's
yeah, because
interesting.
I wasn't gonna say it to you because I knew that you hadn't left me. You were moving forward in your life, and I was happy for your growth, right? And I knew that the way that I was feeling was a me thing, not
Mm-hmm.
a you thing, and I didn't want you to worry,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right, about me. Um, but it was a difficult transition for me. I think just because I felt like a little bit like I've been left behind. Um, but I found Lisa, and then I started where we are, and so right, and then I was able to find progression in my life. But do remember when you moved to Ghana, we came to see you a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
We came to see, we essentially lived in your apartment, like chances are weekend home, right? Um, but I think when I look back on it now, I do think also that 2 years gave us a really strong foundation.
Foundations. Mm-hmm.
We had become, I guess, the first version of who we were going to be. Um, but also, even though you were gone, it wasn't like you had disappeared from my life. And so we
Right.
talked a lot. I came to see you a lot. So we still spent in those first few years a lot of time together. And so that was also great because you were just in our car. DRC, I think, was harder for me
For
because
everybody.
it was like I don't think I ended up coming because it was just
You
like it
did
was a
that,
difficult
yeah.
thing and like just it was hard to get to. So your time in GRC was probably the hardest time for me in our
Mm,
relationship because it just
mm,
you felt so far away
mhm,
physically. But again, I think emotionally, Shan's always at the end of the phone. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
And I knew that last I will present myself in your house. Right? Like and I think that's the thing for me is that like I know that like when if it just becomes too much, I will literally go to Chen's house, I will go to Drew's
Mm.
house, and I will just and I have
Be.
that as a right, and I'll just be, and like nothing else is required of me. And I have that as a really like clear safety net in my mind.
Mhm.
That last, I will just go out to Chen's. I will just go out to Chen's house. Um, and that has gotten me through so much, right? And I don't even know if like I represent the same sort of safety for you. And I don't know if I've ever said this to you before, but like literally, it is a thing in my mind, right?
Wow.
That's last. I'm like, this is why I have successful friends. I'm going to the chance house. It's my just his bedroom, right? Like, so whatever's happening, I'm like, all right, well, what do people say? I can always go to Chen's house. And it is a real like like that same thing if I can go to my father's house, it's a real thing in my mind. Like people are talking, I'm like,
Worst,
okay,
worst.
oh, what the people are saying? I should go Abby, no problem. That's my bag. So just in case you didn't know,
Now I know. Now I
now you
know.
know.
No, but it's such a good point, and I want to tell you what it is for me as well, because one of the things I've found very interesting in me, as you said, after the 2 years, we started to
Mm,
transition and evolve, personally and also professionally, right? As we said at the top
mm,
of the program, Uju went on to, be a really successful writer. You became a founder of what I think in my time in Africa has been
mm.
one of the most creative advertising agencies that I've worked
Thank
with in
you.
my time. No, and I don't say things like that, but it's real. And then obviously I went on to do
Mhm.
the job of CMO and now CEO. So I think that the way that I see it for me is that I can like you and I can have the conversations I'm afraid to say out loud. Let me explain. I remember you being one of the first people I called when I was seeing some issues at work, and being able to talk through those things with you without shame. You know what I mean? A
Mhm.
lot of times, and again, just coming back to this whole thing around infrastructure, like who are the people that you're having the honest conversations
Mm,
with, right? Who are you able to like strip away all the hype, all
mhm,
the accolades, and just be honest about what the issues are? And when you think about it, and I'll sort of turn this back to you in a minute, but let me speak about for me, right? I always tell people this story, and I think it's a very important one. I was CMO in Ghana for a few years, and it, you know not bragging, but I was a well-known CMO, right? And
Mm,
so, when you're in Africa, the way that you're known from a work perspective means that when you walk into a room, people are watching you. You know what I mean? People come up to you, all of this stuff. And I remember the day I announced that I was leaving, and I went to a hotel. And I've known this security guard. He's seen me so many times. Anytime I'm walking to the door, he'd be like,
mm.
"Ah, Madam Muche, and I remember like a couple of weeks later, like walking there, and he was just kind of looking at me like, uh-huh. You know what I mean? Like, you're not the madame anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, no, but that's a very real thing that your title doesn't determine who you are, right? So I think that a lot of times, and the reason why I'm telling this story is that a lot of times you can get caught up in the pomp and circumstance of
Mm,
your role, but it's so important to have people where you're not afraid to strip all of that away and have a real talk about here's what I'm dealing with, and so
mm,
that's from when it comes to personal stuff and professional stuff, uh, and particularly on the work stuff, you're that person. Like a lot of times, I'm like, oh my god, if I articulate this, it becomes a real thing. But with
mm,
you, it's definitely a safe space where I can tell you my deepest fears, my deepest issues from a work perspective, without fear of
mm,
judgment. I think if that makes sense.
mm. And it's funny because I don't have a lot of friends who are in a similar space professionally.
Mm.
Right. As I have a lot of friends that have like serious jobs, right? They finance or whatever. Um, and so professionally, I'm not often that useful to people.
Stop
Um
saying this.
no, but seriously, right? Like in my small friend circle, right? Um, and so that actually makes me really happy because I feel like it is one of the things that I feel like I can give to you. I remember there was when you were got to Cotonou and there was that issue. So the Chen is works at MTN, and the agency that I used to be at was MTN's agency. And you guys were having some challenges. And I remember you called me and you were just like, look, I don't like these people. She was like, these people. And I was just like, okay, then I'll come,
Yep.
right? I'll come and I'll spend some time with the agency. And if you want, I'll spend some time with your team and then we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
They Nobody paid me for it. Wasn't like it wasn't it was I could do it because it was a work thing. I could make it pass as a
Work.
work thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it wasn't like, oh, here is this project. I was just like, I just called group and I was like, this is a problem that's happening. I'm going right, to see if I can help. Um, and even though I wasn't able to like, in the end solve everything, it was really important to me and continues to be important to me. Like when we have these conversations, to be as useful as possible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think because it's great to have someone that you can drink champagne and dance with. It's great to have someone who understands you that you can cry with. But it's also really important, I think, to have somebody that you can build with, right? That can help you build yourself, who you can help build. I think when we talk about infrastructure and like these sort of really foundational relationships, I think our relationship started in crisis,
Mm-hmm.
but it has grown, right? At least from me into a foundational pillar of my life, right? Emotionally, from a work professionally, socially, right? Like some of the people that we have friends, I think very close friends that we met through each other.
Yeah.
And so our relationship is foundational in my life. Like
But then
it's literally a cornerstone.
Yeah,
My life.
so that I really I don't want to end on this note, but I want to maybe close with, because I think what when you say it like that, it's quite profound, right? And I
Mm,
think I'm hoping that through this discussion we've shown how important it is. What advice would you give to women? Because again, as you said, there I hear it enough times, like, women relationships,
mm,
competitiveness, can't trust them, this, that, blah, blah, blah. What advice would you give to the women listening today around building infrastructure, around, so two points. Let me
mm,
ask it this way. So one is around the building of the infrastructure, which
mm,
I am a big believer in. Like, whether
mm,
you're, because I was just speaking to Devine. Devine was like, my friends think I have to talk to them every day. So that this is on the 20 age side, where they're still thinking
mm,
that that defines a relationship. But also importantly for women our age, you know what I mean, who are
mm,
still, if they haven't yet built the infrastructure, what advice do you have for them? That's the first question. And then the second one is just around grief, right? Because this is how we
mm,
started the conversation. And one thing is for sure, you're going to experience some sort of grief in your life, right? How do you make sure it doesn't destabilize you, right? How do you sort of come through that? And I know these are two separate questions, but in a way they're kind
mm,
of linked. Yeah.
mm.
I wanted to sort of hear your views on that as well.
Um, okay, I think I'll start with grief, actually.
Okay.
So I think the thing about when my mother passed away, somebody had sent me this thing and it said, grief is just love with nowhere to go.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, I don't think that if you feel real deep grief, there's no way that it's not going to destabilize you. Like that's part of the process, right? Like because there's been a fundamental change in your life and all change is destabilizing. I think that what I have learned about grief is that one, there's no way to do it. It's an intensely personal thing, and
Hmm.
everybody will deal with it differently. And
Yeah,
what I say to
right.
people all the time, I had some friends that lost their father recently, and I just said to all of them, look, whatever you're feeling in the moment, that's how you're supposed to be feeling. Right? If what you require is, Baileys and laughter, then that's okay.
Then do that. Yeah.
Right? If what you require is a dark room and sobbing, then please
Do
do
that.
that.
Hmm.
Um, I think the thing is one also to not do it alone, because when you're in your grief alone, it can become overwhelming and overpowering.
Hmm.
Um, so find at least one person who you can tell the complete truth about how you're feeling,
Mm.
because getting it out will help you feel less crazy, right? Because that was the thing. I think part of it was like you could say there are things that I could say to you that I might not have been able to say to another person because I knew you weren't going to think I was crazy,
Right.
right? Because sometimes you feel
Right.
crazy. That's part of grief. Like you feel like you're losing your mind. Um, and then also, I guess the last thing is that it is a process and it's a long process and it never goes away, but
Mm.
it changes. And so the intensity of it changes, the frequency of the wave of despair and longing that changes. But another thing that someone sent to me when my mother died was that there will come a point where you will be more grateful for what you had than sad for what you lost. And it's a
Wow.
journey to get there. And some days it's not true. There are still, and my mother's been gone over 20 years, and there are still days where I'm just like, I cannot. Like her birthday this year, I was destroyed.
Right.
Um, But you know what I did? I went and I looked at pictures and I talked to my sisters and right, talk. If you don't have people in your life, find a therapist. Talk.
Talk,
You have to
talk,
get it.
talk.
Talk. You have to get it out of your brain. You have to get it out of your brain. Because when it's
Yeah.
in your mind, it just circles and circles and gets louder and louder and more overwhelming. You have to get it out. And if you and there are many people that don't have a person. I'm a strong believer in therapy. Therapy has saved my life. Find a
Mm-hmm.
therapist and find someone to talk to
Mm.
so that you don't have to grieve alone. Because I think we're social beings. I think that that takes me to the next thing around infrastructure, which is what I would say to women, particularly younger women, um, is actually be intensely selfish about this because this is something that you need. The love of the love and friendship of other women,
Mm.
I think is essential to your growth. I mean, like science, this isn't even me, I'm not like science, right? The research says this,
Yeah.
right? That the love and friendship and support of your female friends will help you live happier and more fulfilled and be more successful.
And
That's it
longer,
and longer.
longer life.
It's not me saying this. This is literally
Yeah.
just a fact.
Yeah.
Science says it, right? And so start from there. That this is something that is essential to you. And when something is essential to you, you work to maintain it and you make adjustments and your relationships will change. When you're in your 20s, proximity and frequency matters, right? I'll be together all the time because that's where you are in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But understand that, like, also that changes, right? People get jobs, people get married, they have
Evolve.
kids,
Yes.
everything evolves. But this is something that is important to you, right? Many women, not all women, but many women will turn themselves inside out, upside down for a man, right? Will make all of the adjustments,
To hold on to that relationship with a man.
right? Give your girlfriends 30% of that energy,
I like that.
right? Because the truth is, even if you marry him, your girlfriends are the people who are going to be with you
Hmm.
through it
Through thick and thin, or
all, through it.
tears and
When I
happiness.
tell, when I say that the things
Hmm.
that Chen and I have
Hmm.
survived individually and together.
I'm serious.
No, no, I'm sitting, I'm
I'm
really real
serious.
about this.
Yeah.
Professionally, in relationships, in from family, like the things that we have like one day we will write a book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The things that we have survived. I am not sure that we would have survived it without each other. Right? You would have made it through. We would survive, but would we be thriving? And I think for me,
Mm.
the joy of this conversation, I guess 20 years later, um, is that we were young women in our early 30s when we met,
Mm-hmm.
who had both been through a devastating loss.
Loss. Yeah.
I had uprooted my whole life and moved to Nigeria, somewhere I hadn't even visited in 10 years. Right? Chen had left her very stable job to embark on something that was an adventure, we'll put it that way. Um, we made some questionable decisions, personally, professionally,
Mm.
emotionally. Um, but when I sit and look at where we are now, 21 years later, literally 21 years later.
Tis.
I would not have predicted this. Did I always
Yeah,
think that Chen was going to be a boss? Yes, absolutely.
I
But did
didn't.
I think that I would be, maybe not, right? But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that 2 years, that foundation that we built is the thing that I'm still standing on.
Seriously.
Um, and so wherever I am or going and wherever I'm going, I know that that foundation sustains
Remain.
me till
Yeah.
till
Remain.
today.
Yeah.
Which is why I was so eager to have this conversation because I want young women to know that your friendships are the things that will sustain you, will elevate you, will help you push through, overcome. Like when you have to go through, when there's no over, when there's no under, when there's no avoiding, you have to go through.
Mhm.
Your girlfriends are the ones who are going to be with you, right? And help you push through that wall. It's so important. I can't tell you how important it is.
I think that was. I feel very emotional as well, because I don't think that we talk about these relationships enough. As I said earlier, a lot of times when you think about women relationships, they're always in this light of negativity.
Mhm.
Um, but as you said, the 2 years with you and a Jew, really became the stepping stone for all that people see today. I mean, obviously, there's a whole host of other
Mhm.
stuff as well, but being able to come through that period stronger,
Mhm.
right? As you said, with a weighted blanket around you, to be able to go face the world. You know what I mean? Like to be able to go face the world and to make more sensible decisions and better choices about our lives. I don't know I mean, there was something you said earlier around the fact that we became each other's guardrails.
Mhm.
I cannot overemphasize this point because any of us could have very easily spun off into the sunset. You know what I mean by that. And so I just also want to say a huge thank you to you
Wow.
for being my guardrails in the early 2000s.
Now you're gonna make me
um,
cry.
Yeah, no, for being a guardrail for you mentioned earlier I don't have any sisters. I do not, but it doesn't feel that way at all. And I'm forever grateful to you for being a true sister to me 20 years later, Nana. Thank you. Thank you for sharing today. Thank you for all your pearls of wisdom. And I'm pretty sure we're probably going to be having some other conversations on this podcast because you touched on a bunch of points that I want to come back to, especially on the
Mm.
career front. But I love you, and I'm so glad that you and I were gifted to each other, and that we accepted the gift, and that we remain today sisters.
Thank you. I
Yes.
love you. Laughing jackasses
Laughing
forever.
jackasses forever. Yeah, I cannot tell you. Listen, I'm going to tell the story because Fidelis will not mind. But we're gonna close on this note. So what happened? How we got this name was that Uju, Nana, and I were at work at Daily Times. Nana didn't work at Daily Times. Uju and I worked at Daily Times, and it was a day that she came to visit us at work. And as usual, we were cackling away at something. I can't remember what it was. And Fidelis, who was at the time the owner and running Daily Times, basically burst into our office and said, "What are you people laughing at? You're always laughing jackasses." And that's how we the name Fidelis. Sorry, I had to tell the story, but that's how
Ah.
we got the name Laughing Jackasses. And till 20 years later, we still call ourselves the Laughing Jackasses because
Yeah.
we still laugh, we still have lots of joy. And I'm so grateful for that every single day. Thank you for being my infrastructure, Nnenna. And I
Um,
think if you have listened to this episode today, I hope you do understand the importance of building your own infrastructure. I promise you, it is the thing that will sustain you in the long run, both personally and professionally. Nnenna, final words. I'm going to leave it with you.
um, I think my final words would be that I hope that everybody who is watching this podcast um, finds a Chen in their life,
Oh,
because it to have someone who is in her own right successful and accomplished and awesome choose you to be her friend and keep choosing you over 2 decades, and to show up for you and allow you to show up for them um, is a gift beyond anything that I can express. And I tell you that I love you all the time, and you know how much you mean to me. But I want to say also how much I admire you,
God.
um, because you're right. Where we are now wasn't guaranteed.
No.
Um, and I want you to be shockingly proud of yourself. Like, in fact, annoyingly proud of yourself for all that you have accomplished and all that is still going to come. Because, when I think about the people that I model myself on, you're one of them. So I think to myself, this is someone who, forget that you lost your husband, right? Just professionally, like, talk about dealing in frontier markets and turnarounds and like professional politics. Like, there's so much that you navigated and traversed successfully, and still had time to like give me advice and show up for me,
Hmm.
right? So I guess what I will say to everyone is, I cannot overemphasize the power of female friendships. Chen talks about infrastructure, I talk about a sister circle. But more importantly, I pray for everyone that you find someone like Chen to add to your circle, because she saved my life more than once. And I can't, there's nothing more else I can say, really. And I'm not going to cry.
Well,
I'm not going to
I'm
cry
crying.
on Beyonce's
Thank you
Instagram.
very much, Nana. I'm crying. Yeah, thanks. No, but no, thank you. And listen, you've heard from Nana today. If you're not familiar with her, please, please, please check out her page and just look out for her, Barefoot Strategist. Um, I've already given her flowers several times, so you already know that she's just brilliant, brilliant, and an amazing individual. Nana, thank you again for today's conversation. I didn't know how it was going to go, but this has been brilliant, and I appreciate you so much. Love you.
I
Thank you,
love
Nana.
you. Love you. And thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Let the Smile Fool You podcast. I hope you found it really, really interesting. But more importantly, I hope you're still smiling. See you soon.